The council chamber stretched across 5 kilometers of black marble, its ceiling so high that clouds actually formed beneath the dome. Representatives from 600 alien species sat in ascending rows that disappeared into the mist above. Holographic stars floated between the seats, each one representing a world under council authority. There were thousands of them. Ambassador Helena Marsh stood at the central platform, feeling very small. Behind her, the entire human delegation consisted of just 12 people. They were the first humans to ever set foot in this chamber. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 15 years ago. In galactic terms, humanity was still learning to crawl, and now they were being judged. Emperor Vorath of the Dominion Empire rose from his throne on the highest tier. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with dark blue skin and 4 muscular arms. His empire controlled 200 star systems. His military fleet numbered in the millions. And right now, his golden eyes were fixed on the tiny human woman standing far below. "The humans request membership in the Galactic Council," Vorath announced, his voice booming through translation devices that converted his words into 1,000 languages. "Before we consider this request, they must answer for the crimes committed against our empire." Helena felt her heart racing, but kept her face calm. "What crimes does the Emperor speak of?" "For 3 years, someone has been sabotaging Dominion operations. Military campaigns have failed. Trade routes have been disrupted. Classified information has been leaked to our enemies." Vorath leaned forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl. "We call this saboteur the Ghost, and we believe the Ghost is human." Whispers rippled through the chamber. 600 species turned to look at the tiny human delegation with new suspicion. "That is a serious accusation," Helena said steadily. "What evidence supports it?" "The Ghost's methods are chaotic, unpredictable, and devastatingly effective. These are known human traits. Furthermore, the sabotage began shortly after humans started working in Dominion space. Coincidence is not evidence, Emperor." Vorath slammed one of his fists against his throne. The sound echoed like thunder. "I have spent 200 million galactic credits trying to find this ghost. I have deployed my best agents across the galaxy. And still, the sabotage continues. Someone is protecting this criminal. Someone is helping them hide." He pointed directly at Helena. "If the humans wish to join this council, they will submit to a full investigation. Every human in Dominion space will be questioned. If we find the ghost among your people, your species will face severe consequences." Helena opened her mouth to respond, but before she could speak, a quiet alarm began beeping somewhere in the chamber. A Dominion officer rushed to Vorath's side and whispered something in his ear. The Emperor's face twisted with rage. "Another attack," he snarled. "The Ghost has just disabled 3 of our border defense stations. Sensors show the sabotage was triggered remotely from within this very station." Every eye in the chamber turned back to the human delegation. Helena felt cold sweat running down her spine. The Ghost had chosen the worst possible moment to strike. Now every species in the galaxy would believe humans were responsible. "We had nothing to do with this," she said firmly. "We have been standing in this chamber for the past 2 hours. When could we possibly have triggered any sabotage?" Vorath descended from his throne, walking down the long stairway toward the central platform. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. "Perhaps not you personally, Ambassador, but there are thousands of humans working throughout Dominion space, cleaning our stations, repairing our equipment, cooking our food." He stopped just meters away from Helena, towering over her like a mountain. "I have always wondered why humans were so eager to take these lowly jobs that other species consider beneath them. Now I understand. You have been planting spies throughout my empire." Helena stood her ground despite her fear. "Human workers take those jobs because they are the only jobs available to us. Your empire refuses to hire humans for anything else. A convenient excuse. It is the truth. Voreth leaned down until his face was level with hers. I will find the ghost ambassador. I will spend whatever it takes, investigate whoever I must. And when I discover the truth, humanity will answer for every credit of damage this saboteur has caused. He straightened and addressed the council. I move that the human membership request be suspended until this investigation is complete. All human workers in Dominion space will be placed under surveillance. Any human found committing sabotage will be executed immediately. Helena watched helplessly as the council voted. Species after species sided with the Emperor. They were afraid of the Dominion. They did not want to offend the most powerful empire in the galaxy by defending a primitive species they had never heard of. The vote passed overwhelmingly, as the human delegation was escorted from the chamber. Helena caught a glimpse of something that made her pause. In a maintenance corridor, visible through a small window, a man in a gray work uniform was repairing a light fixture. He was human. His name tag read simply, Thomas Maintenance Division. For just a moment, their eyes met. The man gave her a slight nod, then returned to his work. Helena did not know him. She had never seen him before, but something in his eyes made her shiver. That night, in her quarters on the station, Helena received an anonymous message on her personal device. It contained just 3 words, "Do not worry." She deleted the message immediately, her hands trembling. She did not know who had sent it. She did not know what it meant, but somewhere deep in her mind, a suspicion was beginning to form. The Emperor had spent 200 million credits searching for the ghost. He had deployed his best agents, his most advanced technology, his entire intelligence network. And he had found nothing, because he was looking for someone important, someone powerful, someone special. He never thought to look at the man who fixed his light bulbs. And that, Helena realized with growing wonder, might be exactly the point. She looked out her window at the massive station around her. Thousands of humans worked here, in jobs that nobody noticed. Cleaning, cooking, repairing. They were everywhere, and nowhere at the same time. The perfect hiding place. The perfect army. Helena did not sleep that night. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what she had stumbled into. Somewhere on the station, a man named Thomas finished his shift, returned to his tiny quarters, and smiled in the darkness. The game had just become much more interesting. Thomas had worked on the station for 2 years. Every morning, he woke at 5, ate a small breakfast of synthetic protein, and reported to Supervisor Krell at exactly 6. Krell was a massive creature with gray scales and 6 eyes, and he barely acknowledged Thomas when assigning the daily work orders. Fix the water recycler in Sector 7. Replace the burned-out lights in the residential wing. Clean the ventilation filters in the command center. Simple tasks. Boring tasks. Tasks that nobody else wanted to do. Thomas did them all without complaint. He was quiet, efficient, and forgettable. Other workers sometimes went weeks without even remembering his name. This was exactly how he wanted it. After his shift ended, Thomas returned to his small room in the human quarters. The space measured 3 meters by 3 meters. It contained a bed, a desk, and a toilet. Standard accommodations for human workers. Nothing special. He locked the door and pressed his hand against a hidden panel beneath his desk. A section of floor slid away silently, revealing a ladder that descended into darkness. The room below was not on any official station blueprints. Thomas had built it himself over 18 months, using stolen materials and fabricated work orders. It contained equipment that would have made Dominion intelligence officers weep with jealousy. Holographic displays covered every wall, showing real-time data from dozens of sources. Communication intercepts. Security camera feeds. Shipping manifests. personnel files. Thomas had access to information that even the Emperor's closest advisors could not see. He sat down in his chair and began his real work, the 3 border defense stations he had. Disabled were just the beginning. Tonight, he would plant false evidence suggesting the ghost was hiding on a remote mining colony. Tomorrow, he would leak classified documents showing Dominion plans to invade neutral territory. The day after, he would cause a mysterious malfunction in the Emperor's personal transport. Each action was carefully calculated. Each strike was designed to look random, but actually served a larger purpose. Thomas was not just causing chaos. He was building toward something. A message appeared on one of his screens. It came through 17 different relay points, bouncing across the galaxy to avoid detection. The text was simple. Council vote failed. Investigation authorized. Human workers under surveillance. Thomas had expected this. He had planned for it. The ghost needed to become more visible now, not less. The Emperor needed to become more desperate, more obsessed, more willing to make mistakes. He pulled up a file marked Operation Falling Star. Inside were the complete technical specifications for the Dominion's newest warship, the Conqueror. It was supposed to launch in 3 weeks. It was supposed to be invincible. Thomas had already identified 23 design flaws that the Dominion engineers had missed. Small things. A stress point in the hull. A weakness in the shield generators. A programming error in the navigation system. He would not fix these flaws. He would make sure nobody else found them either. When the Conqueror launched, it would work perfectly during its test flights. But the moment it faced real combat, the moment its systems were pushed to their limits, everything would fall apart. 300 crew members would die. The most expensive ship in Dominion history would become scrap metal. And the Emperor would become even more convinced that the Ghost was a military genius with unlimited resources. Thomas felt nothing as he finalized his plans. He had stopped feeling things 3 years ago. He opened a drawer and pulled out a small photograph. It showed a green planet with blue oceans and white clouds. Beautiful, peaceful, home to 12,000 human colonists who had built new lives among the stars. New Haven. They had called it. The Dominion had called it a strategic resource. They had wanted the mineral deposits beneath the surface. The colonists had refused to leave. So the Dominion had bombarded the planet from orbit until nothing remained but ash and silence. Thomas's parents had lived on New Haven, his younger brother, his grandmother, everyone he had ever loved. The Dominion had called it a necessary action. They had called 12,000 dead humans acceptable losses. They had not even apologized. Thomas closed the drawer and returned to his work. The next morning, he fixed water recyclers and replaced light bulbs just like always. He passed Dominion security officers in the corridors and nodded politely. They never looked at him twice. That afternoon, Ambassador Helena Marsh was summoned to a meeting with General Torek, the Dominion's military commander. Thomas found a reason to repair a climate control unit in the adjacent room. Through the thin walls, he heard every word. "The investigation is not producing results," General Torek growled. "We have questioned 3,000 humans and found nothing. They are either extremely loyal or extremely well trained. Perhaps the ghost is not human at all," Helena suggested. "Perhaps someone is trying to frame my people. Do not insult my intelligence, Ambassador. The ghost's methods are clearly human, chaotic, unpredictable, effective without logic. You say that like it's an insult. It is a fact. Humans think differently than civilized species. You make decisions based on emotion rather than reason. You take risks that no rational being would consider." Thomas smiled to himself as he worked. General Torek continued, "I recommend more aggressive interrogation methods. Humans respond well to physical pressure. If we make examples of a few, the others might talk. Thomas stopped smiling. You are suggesting torture, Helena said flatly. I am suggesting efficiency. The Emperor wants results. I will give him results. Thomas finished his repair and left quietly. He needed to think. The situation was escalating faster than he had planned. If the Dominion started torturing innocent humans, he would have to accelerate his timeline. That night, he made a decision. It was time to bring Ambassador Marsh into his confidence. She would need to know the truth if she was going to protect her people. He arranged a meeting in a maintenance corridor at midnight. Helena came alone, as requested. She found a man in a gray uniform waiting in the shadows. Ambassador, Thomas said. Thank you for coming. Helena studied him carefully. You are the one who sent me that message. Do not worry. I am. Who are you? Are you the ghost? Thomas considered the question. I am an engineer, he said finally. I fix things that are broken. And right now, this entire galaxy is broken. He handed her a data chip. This contains recordings of General Torak's plans. His own voice, discussing torture of human civilians. If you present this to the Council, it might turn other species against the Dominion. Helena looked at the chip. How did you get this? I fixed his air conditioning unit yesterday. Nobody notices the maintenance man. For a long moment, Helena stared at him. Thomas could see her putting the pieces together, understanding what he was not saying out loud. The Emperor spent 200 million credits looking for you, she whispered. Thomas smiled. He was looking for a ghost. He should have been looking at the people who clean his floors. He walked away into the darkness, leaving Helena alone with the truth. Real war was about to begin. The council chamber erupted in chaos when Ambassador Helena Marsh played the recording. General Torak's voice echoed through the massive space, cold and clear, discussing how many humans would need to be tortured before one of them revealed the ghost's identity. He talked about acceptable casualties. He talked about making examples. He talked about humans like they were animals to be broken. Emperor Vorth sat frozen on his throne, watching his carefully constructed narrative fall apart. This recording is a fabrication, he declared when the audio ended. Human manipulation. More tricks from the ghost. The Velani ambassador, a tall being with silver skin and wings like stained glass, rose from her seat. We have analyzed this recording with our own technology, Emperor. It is genuine. Every word came from General Torak's mouth. The Velani are not experts in Dominion communication systems. You could easily have been deceived. Then perhaps an independent investigation is needed. This came from Ambassador Wren of the Karathi Republic, a small species with dark eyes and quick minds. The Karathi have maintained neutrality in this matter. We would be willing to examine the evidence. Voreth's scales darkened with anger. There will be no investigation. This is an internal Dominion matter. An internal matter that threatens the lives of human civilians, Helena said firmly. Civilians who are protected under galactic law. If the Dominion tortures innocent people, it violates treaties that every species in this chamber has signed. Murmurs rippled through the council. For centuries, smaller species had accepted Dominion dominance because it seemed easier than fighting. But now, watching the Emperor dismiss evidence of planned atrocities, something was shifting. The Velani ambassador spoke again. The Velani nation has received reports of similar mistreatment of our citizens in Dominion space. Workers detained without cause. Businesses seized without compensation. People who simply disappeared. The Karathi have similar concerns, Ambassador Wren added. Perhaps it is time we discuss these matters openly. One by one, other species began to speak. The Thenos Confederation, the Helix Collective, the Crystalline Assembly. All of them had grievances against the Dominion. All of them had been afraid to speak before, but the recording had changed something. If the Dominion would torture humans, they would torture anyone. Emperor Vorth watched his empire's reputation crumble with every new speaker. 300 years of carefully maintained dominance was unraveling in a single afternoon. Enough, he finally roared. The chamber fell silent. I will not be lectured by lesser species about morality. The Dominion has maintained peace in this galaxy for centuries. We have protected you from threats you do not even know exist. And this is how you repay us? By believing human lies? He pointed at Helena. The humans are manipulating all of you. They have planted a saboteur in our midst who has cost us billions in damage. And now they produce a conveniently timed recording to distract from their crimes. We planted nothing, Helena replied calmly. We are a species that has been part of the galactic community for 15 years. We have no fleet, no resources, no political power. How could we possibly threaten an empire that controls 200 star systems? That is exactly what I intend to find out. Vorath descended from his throne and walked toward the human delegation. His guards moved with him, weapons ready. I am invoking emergency security protocols. All humans in Dominion space are hereby placed under immediate detention. Their movements will be restricted. Their communications will be monitored. Their quarters will be searched. That is collective punishment, Helena protested. Illegal under galactic law. Galactic law applies to member species. Humans are not members of this council. Your application has been suspended, remember? He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. You wanted to be treated as equals. Now you will see how equals are treated when they threaten Dominion security. Within hours, the order was carried out across 12 star systems. Human workers were pulled from their jobs and confined to detention centers. Their personal belongings were confiscated. Their families were separated. On the station, Thomas watched the arrests through security cameras he had long ago hacked. He saw humans dragged from their quarters. He saw children crying as they were taken from their parents. He saw the fear in their eyes, and he felt something he had not felt in years. Rage. He had planned to move slowly. He had planned to take his time, to carefully orchestrate the Dominion's downfall over months or even years. But watching innocent people suffer for his actions changed everything. It was time to accelerate. Thomas opened a communication channel that connected him to every human worker in Dominion space. It was a network he had spent 3 years building, one whispered conversation at a time. Most of the workers did not even know the network existed. They just knew that sometimes messages appeared on their devices with useful information or friendly warnings. Now, Thomas sent a different kind of message. The time has come. Phase 3 begins in 70. 2 hours. Remember what we discussed. Remember why we are here. And remember that we are not alone. Across the galaxy, humans read these words in detention cells, in work camps and hiding places. They did not know who sent them. They did not know the full plan. But they knew what they had been asked to do if this moment ever came. Stop working. Not violently. Not obviously. Just stop. Every human would simply cease doing their jobs at the same moment. The Dominion had built their empire on human labor. They had grown dependent on workers they considered too insignificant to threaten them. They had never imagined that those workers might one day refuse. Thomas watched the countdown on his screen. 72 hours until everything changed. He thought about the people being arrested, the families being torn apart, the innocent workers being treated like criminals. The Dominion thought humans were weak. They thought humans would break under pressure, would betray each other to save themselves. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Thomas closed his eyes and saw New Haven burning. He saw his mother's face. He heard his brother's laughter. Soon, he whispered to ghosts only he could hear. Very soon. In 72 hours, the Dominion would understand what it meant to underestimate humanity. And by then, it would be far too late. The countdown reached zero at exactly noon. Galactic Standard Time. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Dominion officials went about their business as usual. Ships launched and landed. Communications flowed. The massive machinery of Empire continued grinding forward. But in maintenance corridors and service, tunnels and engine rooms across 12 star systems, humans quietly put down their tools. They did not protest. They did not resist. They simply stopped. The effects began small. A light flickered in Emperor Voreth's throne room. He did not notice. Within an hour, the problems had spread. Climate control systems began malfunctioning. Water recyclers shut down unexpectedly. Power fluctuations caused minor outages across the station. Dominion engineers rushed to fix the issues, but they quickly discovered a problem. They did not know how. For decades, humans had handled the basic maintenance that kept everything running. The alien engineers had focused on the glamorous work, the advanced systems, the cutting-edge technology. Nobody had bothered to learn how to unclog a water pipe or reset a power relay. By the third hour, the crisis had become impossible to ignore. Emperor Voreth stormed into the main control center, demanding answers. His officers showed him status reports covered in red warning lights. Life support systems were failing on 3 levels. Communications were becoming unreliable. The station's artificial gravity had begun fluctuating. Where are the humans? Voreth demanded. Force them back to work. They refuse, Emperor. They simply sit in their detention areas and do nothing. When we threaten them, they do not respond. Then make them respond. Use whatever methods are necessary. General Torex stepped forward. With respect, Emperor, we have tried. Physical pressure does not work. They seem willing to suffer rather than cooperate. And if we kill too many, we will have no one left to fix the systems. Voreth grabbed Torek by the throat with 2 of his arms. Are you telling me that my empire is dependent on these primitive creatures? I am telling you the truth, Emperor. Humans have been performing essential maintenance tasks across all Dominion space for 15 years. We did not think it was important. We did not train replacements. Voreth threw the general aside and stared at the status displays. Red lights blinked everywhere. Each one represented another system failing, another crisis developing, another piece of his empire coming apart, on a Vellani transport ship hidden near the border of Dominion space. Thomas watched the chaos unfold through intercepted communications. He had escaped the station in a maintenance pod 12 hours before the strike began, following a route he had planned years in advance. Around him, other humans were arriving from across the galaxy. Thousands of them smuggled out on Vellani and Karathi vessels that had been waiting for this moment. The non-Dominion species had agreed to help, understanding that this strike was their chance to weaken their greatest rival. Ambassador Helena Marsh found Thomas in the observation deck. You planned this, she said. It was not a question. We all planned this. Every human who learned their job a little too well. Every human who noticed which systems were most vulnerable. Every human who stayed silent and waited for the right moment. The Dominion will retaliate. When they recover, they will come for revenge. Thomas shook his head. They will not recover. Not from this. I have spent 3 years mapping their weaknesses, understanding their dependencies. They cannot function without human labor, and they cannot replace us fast enough to prevent total collapse. As if to prove his point, new reports came through the communication systems. The Dominion's main agricultural station had lost power. Food production had stopped. The military fleet's supply lines were disrupted. Half their ships were stuck in dock for repairs that no one knew how to perform. and in the council chamber, something remarkable was happening. The Vellani ambassador had called an emergency session. Species that had been silent for centuries were now speaking openly against the Dominion. The Korathi presented evidence of illegal territorial expansion. The Thenos revealed secret military installations that violated treaty agreements. The Crystalline Assembly shared communications showing Dominion plans to annex their trade routes. For decades, these species had been afraid. Now, watching the Dominion crumble, they found their courage. Emperor Vorath appeared before the council via holographic projection, his image flickering due to the communication failures plaguing his station. He looked diminished somehow, less terrifying than he had seemed just days before. "This is an act of war," he declared. "The humans have attacked Dominion infrastructure. We demand that the Council authorize military response." The Vellani ambassador responded calmly. "The humans have attacked nothing. They have simply chosen not to work." Is choosing not to work now a crime? "They have sabotaged our systems. They have stopped maintaining your systems. There is a difference. If your empire falls apart the moment workers refuse to cooperate, perhaps the problem is not the workers." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Species that had once trembled before the Dominion were now openly mocking its leader. Vorath's scales turned dark purple with rage. "The humans will pay for this. Every single one of them. With what resources?" Asked Ambassador Wren. "Your fleet cannot launch because your engineers cannot fix the engines. Your communication systems are failing. Your food production has stopped. In 3 weeks, your population will begin starving." The Emperor fell silent. For the first time in his long reign, he had no answer. On the Vellani ship, Thomas watched the council session with quiet satisfaction. Everything was unfolding exactly as he had planned. The Dominion was exposed. The galaxy was turning against them. And humans, the species that everyone had dismissed as primitive and worthless, had brought an empire to its knees. But he was not finished yet. Thomas opened a channel to Ambassador Marsh. "The Council will vote tomorrow on whether to demand Dominion reforms. When they do, I need you to make a specific proposal." "What proposal?" "The Dominion needs help to survive. Their systems are failing. Their people will suffer. We are going to offer that help." Helena stared at him. "After everything they have done? After New Haven? After the detention camps?" Thomas's expression did not change. "We are going to help them because we are better than they are, and because helping them on our terms is more powerful than letting them burn." He handed her a data chip containing the proposal. She read it in silence, and slowly, understanding dawned. On her face, Thomas was not just destroying an empire. He was rebuilding the entire galaxy, and humans would be at the center of everything. Council Chamber had never seen anything like this before. Emperor Vorath stood alone at the central platform, stripped of his ceremonial robes, wearing simple garments that seemed to swallow his massive frame. His scales had faded to a dull gray. His forearms hung limp at his sides. The ruler of 200 star systems looked like a broken creature. Around him, 600 species watched in silence as the council speaker read the terms of surrender. "The Dominion of the Stars will immediately cease all military expansion. Occupied territories will be returned to their original inhabitants. Full citizenship rights will be granted to all human workers currently in Dominion space. Reparations will be paid to families affected by detention camp operations. And an independent oversight commission will monitor Dominion compliance." Vorath said nothing. There was nothing left to say. The council voted unanimously to accept the terms. Even species that had historically supported the Dominion raised their appendages in approval. The Dominion's day of unchallenged power was over. As Vorath was led from the chamber by his own guards, a strange silence fell. Then the Velani ambassador spoke. The council has one more matter to address. We have been told that the architect of these events wishes to speak. Every eye in the chamber turned toward the observation gallery, where man in simple clothing rose from his seat. He walked down the long stairway to the central platform, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. Thomas looked smaller than the delegates had expected. He was not impressive or intimidating. He looked like what he was, an ordinary human, a worker, someone you might pass in a corridor without a second glance. The council speaker regarded him with curious eyes. You are the one they called the ghost? The ghost was never one person, Thomas replied. His voice was quiet, but carried clearly through the chamber. The ghost was every human who was told they did not matter. Every worker who was treated like a tool. Every person who was ignored because they were not important enough to notice. He looked up at the assembled delegates. Hundreds of species representing thousands of worlds. I spent 3 years planning the downfall of the Dominion Empire. I planted false evidence. I sabotaged military operations. I leaked classified information. I caused the deaths of hundreds, perhaps thousands, of Dominion soldiers and officials. Thomas paused, letting his words settle. I did these things because the Dominion destroyed my home. They killed 12,000 people on a colony called New Haven because they wanted the minerals under our feet. They called it a necessary action. They called 12,000 dead humans an acceptable cost. His voice remained steady, but there was steel beneath the calm. The Emperor spent 200 million credits searching for me. He deployed his best agents across the galaxy. He tortured innocent people trying to find information. And the whole time, I was right in front of him, fixing his lights, repairing his water systems, walking past his guards every single day. He smiled, and there was no humor in it. He never thought to look at the maintenance man. None of them did, because in their minds, humans were too primitive, too insignificant, too worthless to pose any threat. We were furniture, background noise, invisible. Thomas turned to face the empty space where Vorath had stood moments before. That was their mistake. Not underestimating human intelligence or human technology. Underestimating human anger, human patience, human determination to be treated with dignity. The chamber remained silent. Thomas continued, I am not proud of everything I did. People died because of my choices. Some of them were innocent. I will carry that weight for the rest of my life. But I could not let the Dominion continue treating humans like property. I could not let them destroy another New Haven. He turned back to the council. Now, I offer you something different. Humanity has proven that we can tear down an empire. But that is not what we want. We want to build something better. We want to be partners, not servants. Equals, not tools. Ambassador Helena Marsh stood and walked to the platform, carrying a data tablet. Humanity formally submits a proposal for reconstruction assistance, she announced. Human engineers will help repair Dominion infrastructure that was damaged during the crisis. In exchange, humans will receive full citizenship rights in all Council territories, permanent seats on the Galactic Council, and official recognition as a peer species. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. You wish to help the empire that enslaved your people? The Velani ambassador asked. Thomas answered before Helena could respond. We wish to prove that we are better than they were. The Dominion treated us as beneath them. We will treat them as equals. That is the difference between us. The vote was called. Species after species raised their appendages in approval. Even those who had once dismissed humans as primitives now looked at them with something approaching respect. The proposal passed with overwhelming support. As the council session ended, delegates approached Thomas to offer congratulations or express curiosity. He answered their questions politely but briefly. He was not comfortable with attention. He had spent 3 years being invisible, and fame did not suit him. Later, when the chamber had emptied, Helena found him standing alone at the central platform, staring up at the holographic stars that floated beneath the dome. "What will you do now?" she asked. Thomas considered the question. "There is still much work to be done. The Dominion needs to be rebuilt. Human colonies need to be established. New Haven needs to be remembered." He looked at his hands, calloused from years of manual labor. "I suppose I will do what I have always done. Find what is broken. Fix it." Helena stood beside him, watching the artificial stars. The Emperor spent 200 million credits searching for a ghost. He never found one. "No," Thomas agreed. "He found something more frightening. He found ordinary people who refused to be treated as less than they were. That is what truly terrified him." He smiled, and this time there was warmth in it. "Ghosts fade away when the sun rises. But humans are still here. We will always be here. And now, finally, the galaxy knows to take us seriously." He walked toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the empty chamber. Helena watched him go. Man who had toppled an empire with nothing but patience and a maintenance toolkit. The invisible worker who became the most wanted fugitive in galactic history. The engineer who fixed what was broken. Thomas disappeared through the doorway. Just another face in the crowd. And that, Helena thought, was exactly how he wanted it. Some people changed the galaxy through conquest. Others changed it by fixing. One small thing at a time. In the end, both methods worked, but only one left the galaxy better than it was before. The end.